Things Gary does. Hey everyone, it's Gary again. This is another painting video that I recorded. This one is of a family pet named Speed, a border collie. And so let's just get right into it. We've got a little ways to go. Let's get it started if it'll start. Let's start it. Go. Okay. So first thing you should notice is that it's going very, very, very fast. And this is because this painting actually took me probably the longest any painting's taken me in, like, since I first started. This painting took me at least 6 or 7 hours. This was over like 6 or 7 days, like 6 or 7 sittings to do this painting. And the reason it took me so long, as you can see over here on the left, the kind of references I had to work with. And, like, granted, I've got some good pictures of the face, but neither of those angles are really something that I wanted to go for. I didn't feel like they were very appropriate for what I wanted to convey as far as showing off the dog. And so I had to do a lot of kind of reposing in my head and shifting things around. And fun fact, I mean, not fun fact, but the reason I was doing these paintings, you can see underneath one of these pictures, you can see another painting that I had done of our bloodhound Annee. And the thing is both of these dogs have since passed away. And when Annee the bloodhound passed away, my mom asked me to do a painting of Annee for, like, to keep a memorial of her. We had some pictures of her, but my mom wanted a painting, and so I did one of her. And then after I sent that, my mom asked if I would do one of Speed as well. And so this drawing is to match Annie's painting. And you can see here I'm laying in the blue and the green grass, keeping in mind that I'm going to keep the same sort of background to keep the same sort of feel. But yeah, so that's the reason I was doing these paintings. And another reason why it was so difficult, because Speed passed away back in like 2010 or 9 or something like that, which was quite a while ago. Well, maybe it wasn't that long ago. No, he only passed away like 2 or 3 years ago. But I haven't really seen him that much for like 4 years because I was gone in AmeriCorps and everything. And so I was working with very old memories, and just these 3 pictures. These are the only 3 pictures we managed to keep of Speed. All the other ones got lost in cell phones. But anyway, enough with the background. You've already seen me go through a number of different ideas that I had for starting with Speed, even like standing up and trying to get a pose right. And here I'm sort of settling on, yeah, another sitting down, sort of almost 3/4 view. But you can see here I'm already sort of changing my mind with the head position. And, you know, just, you'll see me redraw this at least 2 or 3 more times, I'm sure. And this painting was just a lot of trying to get to, like, the more not emotional, but like the intuitive recognition. Because when you're doing a likeness, you know, they're always trying to get to that point where someone will, like, look at something and in a second, like, they feel it down in their gut, like, oh yeah, I totally recognize who or what this is. And I was really, you know, that's the whole reason I'm doing this painting, is for that sense of recognition. And so I was relying super heavy on that, you know, obviously looking at my reference images, but there's really only so much I could get, especially with the body. The head, you know, I could get it, at least a good understanding, and refresh my own memory. But yeah, so you'll see me, I'll shift this head around incessantly. I'll shape that muzzle around so many times, and it's just because I'm trying to kind of jog my memory, jog that sort of recognition of likeness in my own brain. And that's one of the big reasons why this painting just took so long. It's an extremely long process trying to cull up those old memories and kind of get an understanding of this animal. And, you know, and on top of that, like with Annee, you know, she was a much thinner, or not thinner, she was definitely a big dog. But I mean, she had short hair, and the short hair hug the form better, and so it was much easier to describe her form because it wasn't hidden with a whole bunch of fur, whereas Speed was extremely shaggy, and so trying to figure out his forms and trying to get them to read especially is very, very challenging, and all of these things working in tandem together just made for an extremely challenging drawing. This is definitely one of the hardest paintings I've had to do, just because of all of those different things. And like, I honestly don't understand dog anatomy as much as I probably should have to do this painting. I did a number of times pause the video and look at a few references when I was getting most frustrated, but you can see here I've kind of got my direction at least set. I know exactly where I want him to be looking. I know where, you know, how he's going to be sitting and everything, but you can see I'm just trying to manipulate that form as much as possible, trying to get that recognition coming in, and that's necessary for me to do these little value shifts so I can get a better sense of the form and a better image. But yeah, like really from here on out, it's a ton of shaving off that back to get it to seem like he's sitting comfortably, and then head to body relations. And you can see here that's Annie's picture on here on the left and Speed here on the right, and trying to keep in mind how I'm going to be framing and how they're going to be looking in relation to each other. But yeah, it was a really tough drawing for me, but it was also something that I think I really needed, because early on when I started painting, I got it into my mind that I had to be really fast, that I had to do these paintings extremely fast. And the first like tutorials I read were people doing speed paintings, which were paintings that they would do in like an hour or less. And so I had it ingrained in my mind very early on to go really, really fast. And if I wasn't going fast enough, I'd get discouraged and I'd get impatient, and the drawing would suffer. But here, because I was so emotionally involved, and because I was at a severe disadvantage in many respects, I had to take my time. It was absolutely necessary for me to take that time to get it right, and do a proper job of it. And so even though it was very painful to take this long on something that's really relatively simple, like if I had a picture reference, or if even I had a really good sense of the likeness, like this really could have taken an hour, especially because there's not a lot of color. I mean, he's a black and white dog, so it really could have been a very, very quick painting, like the Annee drawing you saw there, and that one took me like 2 sittings maybe, and so that's like 2 hours, which is pretty standard. And that was partially because I was fiddling around with trying to do fur forever, because I was trying to find a good way to do that. But yeah, this painting was just something else entirely. I don't even. Yeah, it was a good experience though. I mean, I when Speed passed, it was kind of a rough day and night for me when I first heard the news from my parents, and it was really hard because I wasn't living at home, and I didn't see him. I hadn't really seen him for the past 2 or 3 years, and then he was gone, and so it was just tough not to be there, and not to have seen him, and the picture of me and him there on the left is, I think, the last time I saw him, actually, if not the last, one of the last. And I'm really glad that I got that picture with him. But it was a really tough night, and and obviously he's got a ball in his mouth, so Speed loved to run, and Caitlin, my little sister, named him Speed. I mean, she named him that when he was a puppy, so she didn't really know he could run fast, but this dog could really, really run fast, and that's what he loved to do. I mean, he'd play fetch until the moment, like, until his body gave out, he'd just keep going and going and going, and he just loved to run. And so that night when I found out that he'd he died or had been put down, I got on my running shoes and clothes, and I went for a big long run in kind of his honor, and stood out in a field for a little bit, and kind of, I mean, I probably look like a crazy person, but I was, kind of saying my last kind of words to Speed, not necessarily like a prayer or anything, but just like as if he was there talking. I mean, it was very good for me. I'm very glad that I did it. It felt like kind of closed that off for me. But this painting was kind of like a revisiting of that, looking at his pictures and trying to pull up all these memories. I was thinking about him a lot, and really brought back kind of those emotions. And it was a tough painting to get through in that respect too, just because you have to fight through those kind of not unresolved, but like those painful memories of just missing a dog that you loved so much. And here you can see, well, maybe you couldn't see it. I sped this painting up a lot. Like I sped it up to like 14 times regular speed, and then when I imported it into Premiere, I sped it up twice again, so it's probably like 28 times regular speed. So things go by so quickly. But you saw with the red and green drawings that I did there over his body, and that was me trying to understand the shapes, because I was going through this so many times that I was starting to get away from an actual understanding of what actual shapes are going on underneath the fur. And so I was trying to outline where his rib cage was, where his head was, and where his neck and spine were kind of going and curling, and that way I could discover mistakes that I wasn't recognizing just in my plain looking at it. And so I was just trying to use everything in my arsenal, just trying to do what do you call them, like wireframes. Not wireframes, not the word I'm looking for, but contour lines. I was trying to do contour lines so I could get a better sense of how the shape was going, so I could describe those better when I was doing lighting. But yeah, and here I think I'm getting fairly confident of where I'm going. There's a little bit of likeness reading. I think you can see it with the top picture and what I've got going on here. So this is when I started to explore more of the details. Not a whole lot, like I'll still change this quite a bit, but now I'm starting to get in there and try to clean it up a little bit, trying to see if I can pull some more of that likeness out of the details, because like the general shape and everything is important, but like I said, like he's got so much fur, and I'm working with so many memories, old ones, that silhouette may not be enough. And so I'm trying to see if I can maybe pull out some more of that recognition in the smaller details, and trying to maybe get it to at least read, even if it isn't entirely correct, with that level of detail. And so here I'm starting on the fur, and like the fur, people think of fur as something very, very difficult, and it's definitely not like a walk in the park. Like if you're doing like realistic, photorealistic fur, like I'm sure there's a lot more difficult and a lot more finesse that needs to be taken that I definitely took here. But for the most part, all you do with fur is you think of like the darkest, like the innermost color underneath all that fur, and you lay that down first, and then in increments of brightness you sort of just paint and keeping in mind like the direction of the fur that it's going. So you can see on his chest he's got all those like swirly bits and fur that kind of curls off and that kind of thing, and you just drew the brush strokes along those paths. And then as you get brighter and brighter and more specific, you go smaller and smaller with your brush, and eventually you get down to a really small brush, and you just do like the little flyaways, and and there you go, you've got some fur. But another trick I use later on is, once you've got the general values, like in his body, how his arm turns there and his torso turns, you just really go in and you click and you color pick out of the different areas of value that are touching, and you like kind of, it's not like cross hatching, but you do that same sort of hair brush. Oh, you can see it here, I'm doing it with the white and the black right there. You see, you just kind of scribble it, not scribble it, but like in the direction of the fur. You cross over the line separating areas of value, and most obviously between this white and this black area. And that gives you a very, very quick read of fur. You can see it even there close to the nose where the fur gets a little darker relative to the rest of the muzzle, and it's just a little bit of scratch, a little bit of, just a little bit of contrast, and that's all it takes, is just a little bit of that raggedy contrast to give you a sense of fur and of enough detail that I wanted to go for here. I don't really care for photorealistic stuff. And I honestly don't have the patience for that. And I wanted this to be a painting. It was supposed to be a drawing, a representation, not a recreation necessarily. Even though I guess that's kind of what it is. But anyway, that's all I'm doing now at this stage, is I'm pulling out that fur because I'm fairly confident of where I'm at with it. Oh, well, except I'm fixing the muzzle again. But yeah, up until this point, it was a really hard grind to just get the shape of the dog where it needed to be. Yeah, it was just such a tough drawing. But yeah, okay, so you see here with the fur, I'm just crossing over those lines, putting in little flyaways, just doing little brighter bits over the darker, and building up a little more contrast, and just really it's more or less scribbling, except it's controlled scribbling in the direction of the fur. I mean, scribbling's a terrible word, but scratching maybe, I don't know. Drawing, it's drawing. But yeah, that's all this is at this point, is continuously going. It was one thing I couldn't stop thinking about when I was drawing the eyes. I think I'll go back to the eyes here in a little bit. But is my grandma, when, I don't know if it was when that she first saw him or one of the times she saw him, this was my great-grandma, she came by and she was looking at him and she goes, "Oh, he has mean eyes." And I remember looking at him and Speed was the sweetest dog, really. I mean, he didn't get along very much with other dogs just because, we didn't do really a very good job of socializing him, to be honest. But, he just was the nicest, most docile dog, really. And I don't know, to me at that time it was just the most ridiculous thing to say, because I just loved the dog, and that's all I could think about, though, is when I was drawing the eyes. Oh, he's got mean eyes. And I was like, "Murr." But okay, here you see I'm using combinations of the dodge and the burn brush to kind of push and pull those fur values, because being that most of his fur is black, it was kind of important for me to make sure that his form was still turning and that there was still enough read of his body. Because if you just do a lot of black, things can get lost pretty easily, especially in print, which was the ultimate goal for this painting. And then you see that ball. You see, I'm referencing the ball that he has in that lower left picture. You'll see me here in a little bit. I'm jumping ahead because I know the video is going to be closing up here in about 2 minutes. But you see the ball, and you see it's got all these little holes in it. And in a little bit I'll paint them. But I do a really kind of half-hearted job with it. I don't know why. I think I was just kind of really burned out at this point, because I was getting close to when I needed this to be done, because we were going to print it in the next day or two. And I just did it, and it was fine. It would worked. Here it goes. But when I was getting ready to print it, it just looked really bad. It just, I don't know, for something so geometric like that, it didn't sit well with me, and I didn't do the perspective right with the little indents in there. And so actually when I got it in and was about to print it, I made a quick adjustment and actually went into a 3D program called ZBrush and recreated the ball, and did those divots, and it did it more you can have mathematical symmetry functions on ZBrush, and I did the indents in there, and then just exported a grayscale image, masked it into the painting, and then just colored it yellow, and that was it. I didn't get a recording of it here because I did that adjustment on my Macintosh just before printing, and so I didn't have Camtasia there to do it, but just thought I'd let you know, because yeah, just look at the ball, it was not working for me. But we're coming close to the end of the picture, but like I said, I did some editing, but other than that, it was just like levels, and I actually extended the borders. You'll see here at the end when I put the two images side by side. But yeah, this was a painting of speed. It was definitely a learning and growing experience for me as a painter, I feel like, and definitely one that I'll remember for a lot of reasons, obviously. But yeah, here we're just doing the last edits, trying to get the colors right and all of the grass looking good, and last adjustments on the teeth and that terrible ball. And here we go. Yeah, that's the final image right there with the ball. And then this is it, him next to Annie, side by side, so you can see how I was trying to keep the colors together. And then this is them actually hanging on the wall, the final finished products, and I was pretty happy with it. I was very happy that I could do this for my mom and my family, and give them and myself this kind of closure. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it probably wasn't like the most informative as far as actual painting skills and stuff, but you know, half vlog, half painting video. So hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Alright, bye. And we're gonna turn it off. Things done. Hey everybody, this is a new painting video that I recorded. This video is recorded, let's start over.